So I'll talk a little bit about readiness and what we do at the back end of this presentation, but we'll break it up into a couple of spots. We'll talk about this new legislation and your responsibility now as business owners and in the workplace, and then we'll spend a bit of time on how to have the conversation with staff members, not only staff members, but anyone, family as well, around mental health, which has still got a fair stigma attached to it. Firstly, to kick off, just a couple of stats that we've that are around work cover claims and everything now is around $9,000 or 5.5 weeks off for any work cover claim. Mental health compensation claims, which are a little bit more of a step up, are around $24,500 or 15 weeks off for staff members who are struggling in that area as well. Obviously, WorkSafe are the governing body who regulate, obviously, the OH&S, but this new psychosocial health legislation falls in under that occupational health and safety legislation, as I mentioned. So employers' responsibility now is not only to, as you have been doing, look after the physical health within the workplace, but as important now, if not more, because WorkSafe is certainly going to be putting a bit more emphasis on this, is the mental health or the psychological safety of your employees as well, which is all can be pretty daunting, but we've made it pretty simple with what we do. Again, we've got there are breaches in Queensland and WA in May last year. The new psychosocial hazard legislation kicked in, started May 1st last year. We're about 18 months behind down here in Victoria. We've done a lot of work with WorkSafe over the past 12 months to get us ready down here with our Readiness platform, and we've had around about 60% of our clients audited or be checked on a coincidental point of view from WorkSafe, all passing with flying colours around that those new breaches, those new psychosocial hazards that are coming in. What they're doing different down here in Victoria is they're checking, obviously for the physical health, but they're checking what you're doing in a psychological point of view. They're just not implementing the ramifications yet, which we'll go through here. So that's where it sits at the moment in terms of, again, it's a pretty daunting topic that we're talking about, but deaths in the workplace, that's what's currently in now in the since 2019. As I said, other states, which we'll talk about now and go through, this new psychosocial hazard legislation looks at 14 factors in the workplace from a mental health point of view, and here they are here. We won't read through all the definitions, but again, just like physical health in the workplace, psychosocial health is just as important. So organisational justice, change management, physical environment, conflict and relationships, harassment, violence and aggression, job control, support, remote and isolated work, reward and recognition, bullying, traumatic events, role clarity and job demands are the 14 areas or the 14 factors that WorkSafe will come in and assess your business on. They're doing it now, obviously, and it'll become a lot more prudent over the next 6 months. Certainly what Victorian Chamber of Commerce have told us, they'll be implementing a lot more at the back end of this year. So there are basically 4 ways to make sure that you comply with these new regulations from a mental health point of view with your employees. You need to identify the factors and the hazards that are going on in the workplace. Assess these, and we've got plenty of ways that we do that with our surveys and our health check-ins. Control these measures through acting on the information that you receive back from your staff members. And again, at Readiness, we've got a million ways that we do this in terms of the resourcing that we've got, and continually repeat and review as you go through. So it's not like a quarterly engagement type survey or action that you do every sort of 3 or 4 months. This stuff needs to be done monthly and being integrated into your HR systems and platforms, which we do a lot of work with as well. So for something like a really simple health check-in from a psychosocial hazard point of view, plus a wellbeing point of view, we're only talking a minute per week of different topics that your staff can be assessed in, and then provide interventions, education and assistance with any areas that the business need to put some energy and effort into, but then also just as well highlight where you're going really well in, and then be able to track that as you go through with any interventions that you've just had. So that's a little bit about the hazards, the psychosocial hazards legislation coming in. I said it's very new. We've got a lot of clients up in Queensland and WA where it's been around for 18 months, and they talk to colleagues as well who still aren't even aware that it's there, and they're sitting ducks. So, like anything in life, when new legislation comes in, they'll probably take some big names early on to make an example of that, like they do with the physical health. So it's good to be ahead of the curve and making sure that A, you're compliant, but B, you're looking after and very much so looking after the holistic well-being of your workforce as well. So I just wanted to touch base when you're having those conversations with staff members. Paul and I were just chatting before, actually. It can be quite a daunting conversation and awkward conversation if you're talking about mental health with anyone, employees, family members, friends or whatever. There's still a lot of stigma around mental health in society and certainly in the workplace. So I just wanted to break down mental health, a bit of what it is, and then also look at some really easy strategies to become an advocate or to help those in your workplace cope with the stresses of life. So just like physical health, the important thing there to look like is we've all got mental health. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others and make healthy choices. So again, a couple of stats there. 1 in 4 Australians will suffer from mental health at any point in their life, and only about 65% of people, once they have some changes with their mental health, will seek any sort of professional help with it. So again, it's ensuring that you've got that psychologically safe environment at your workplace where we'll talk about buddies or advocates in a second, but where staff feel comfortable in speaking up. And again, through Readiness, we've got plenty of ways that we do that through technology as well. So with yourselves, how to know when you're struggling or someone around you isn't doing so well. What are the signs and symptoms? So we'll look at some behavioural signs. And again, the better you know and the more you've been around your staff, you'll be able to pick these up a lot quicker and a lot easier. But some simple things either with yourself or with others: not getting things done, excessive fear or worry, indecisiveness and loss of confidence. So certainly with, I reflect over my years in sport where I had to do a lot of this stuff as a fitness coach in sport, was picking up on the cues and the body language of players and staff on non-physical issues that they might have. And certainly the better you know people in your organisation, you'll be able to pick these up. Loss of confidence and indecisiveness are 2 examples when someone might be quite the opposite normally. Erratic behaviour, withdrawing from others, isolation, reduced participation in activities and changes to their appearance, as well as some pretty key signs of when some people within your organisation might be struggling a bit from a mental health point of view. Some physical signs. Again, this can be not only for those around you, but you feel yourself. It's always good to be able to nip, like I used to always give you this example in my sporting days. I want to know if a player's hamstring's sore before it tears, and it's no different in well-being. If you can pick up on the signs yourself or with those others around you, you can nip something in the bud nice and early before it snowballs. So some physical signs are tired all the time, moving more slowly or appearing agitated, sick and run down. Changes in sleep patterns is really one of the early signs that you'll see yourself or with family members at home. Weight loss or gain, inability to concentrate and difficulty with memory. So it's just some physical signs partnering with those behavioural signs that are pretty good giveaways to know that someone might be struggling a little bit with mental health. And again, we mentioned around that stigma. Still, a lot of people aren't comfortable in bringing it up and talking about it. So being able to be that icebreaker around work in having those conversations, being able to pick it up is usually very, very a great relief for those who are suffering. So your role in creating a mentally healthy workplace is actually really simple, and we can all do it. And we all have a role to play. And again, it really starts with just conversations and checking in on those around you. That might feel a bit awkward at the start, but as I said, I do a day or 2 a week out in the workforce, working in return to work from a mental health and physical health point of view, and we're certainly getting a lot more numbers on board or advocates on board, which we're about to talk to in that mental health space, so that each department where I work, there's about 40 departments, about 1,100 staff, and we've got really good advocates in each area who the staff know that they can go to when they're not feeling so great. So what is an advocate? someone who cares about the culture of the organisation as well. Want to have that positive impact on people, and can naturally want to check in on those around them. You're probably thinking in your own heads at the moment, what advocates do you have in your business at the moment who match that sort of description? And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But the take-homes here, and the easy part is you don't need to be professionally trained for it. You can, and we encourage mental health first aid and a number of other short courses that we do to train your staff up. But you don't have to be professionally trained to do it. You don't have to have all the answers. And there's the other thing. A lot of people might be scared to have a conversation with someone who's struggling because they think they need to have all the solutions. You don't. I've got a big saying, let the bakers bake the bread. So in my role where I am now, I'm only mental health first aid trained. I'm not a counsellor or a psych, but I can have those conversations and then refer on to EAP and those experts in those ways. But we can all be advocates in that space, and we'll touch on that in a second here. So what makes up a good advocate? Approachable or buddy systems, same thing. Approachable and generally wanting to help each other or help others. Trustworthy and discreet's a really big one. People aren't going to open up to you if they think or know that the information is going to get out. And again, it all comes back to that sort of physical health versus mental health. If I pop my shoulder out of my shoulders in a sling, people are a lot more reactive and warming to that and empathetic and sympathetic with that versus the mental health side of things. So there's still that stigma, so we really need to be trustworthy and discreet with any information that staff pass on. Being willing to listen and show empathy is a big one. Certainly with my work from day to day, a lot of it's just listening and offering that human support and allowing that person or letting that person know that they're not on their own, and we've got a roadmap. I may not have all the answers, but I know people who can, and we've got systems with our platform that help with all of that. Action orientated and emotionally intelligent. So again, if you're chatting with someone, I was chatting with someone yesterday who had their house broken into. They were gone for 2 weeks. The guy was in the house for 6 hours, stole pretty much everything in there, including Nurofen and Panadol out of their medical cabinet, ripped all the walls, looking for a safe, went through underwear, the whole thing, loaded his van up, loaded their car up as well, took the van off, came back, picked the car up and went again. So she's absolutely devastated. And again, there's a slide in a second that I'll talk you through, but what do you say to that? And I don't have all the answers, but I've given her some coping strategies and referred her to those experts with that. But she just wanted to get it off her chest and listen. And she messaged me this morning after our chat yesterday and just said, she had the best night's sleep she's had since that happened, just to be able to get her off her chest. So again, didn't have too many answers for her, but I assured her that she's not alone in this, and as a business we'll support her, and we've got the wheels are in motion now to get her help. So before going into having a chat with someone, you've got to make sure you're in a good headspace yourself. You don't want to be too stressed because you don't know what information could be coming back the other way. So ensuring you're just in a emotionally stable state of mind is a really good start to commencing these discussions. And are you prepared for the responses that might be? So I must admit I'm getting used to them now. But yeah, there's some doozies in there that we've literally had suicidal people that we're at their last straw sort of thing in terms of helping them. So there have been some really hairy conversations that we've had to have, but making sure that you're prepared for what the responses might be and that you're in a pretty good space yourself. And a big one too, which goes a long way into how honest and how free-flowing the conversations will be, is picking the right moment and location's massive. So if it's in a workplace environment, obviously not having a chat in an open desk setup. Even simple things like where I work, I'm in a separate section where there's no glass doors that are separating it because they don't want people knowing, some of them, that they're in there having a chat about certain things. A great way, which we'll get to, is actually getting off the location or out of the work environment, go and grab a coffee somewhere, go for a walk, but making sure you pick the right moment and location to have those. So how to start the conversation is a big one as well. Making sure that, if you know them well and they, you've got that relationship, hey, I've noticed that you're not quite yourself. And obviously the way you approach those questions as well in an empathetic way. How are you feeling? Are you okay? again, let's grab a coffee, let's go for a walk, let's get out of here and have a chat. It's just about that sort of icebreaker. And not everyone will be reactive and wanting to have those conversations. They're great when they do, and that's a really good sign that you're a good advocate and buddy for that. But some might say, look, no, I'm a bit busy, or they're not quite right. Well, can I check in with you later? I do that a lot. That'll be sort of, I'll check in with you at the end of the day. I'll check in with you later in the week. And just letting them know that, okay, tonight, now's not the great time, but you've got my details. I'll check in with you later on, or feel free to check in with me as well. So just making sure they at least leave that situation knowing there's help there. What we're discussing now is all around the workplace, obviously, but these are skills that you can take into your everyday life as well. With Readiness, we look at both workplace and individual wellbeing, and I can certainly put my hand up to this. I've come out of sport where, it's 6.5 days a week. It's pretty full on and brutal. If we lose a game of footy, or my tennis player's lost at Wimbledon or whatever, time you get home from the flight or you get home from work, the dog cops it on the way in. So how the work stresses really can impact on home, and vice versa. Certainly in sport, and certainly when sort of beat out of sport is issues with relationships, new baby in the house, no one's sleeping. I used to see this a lot in sport. They're in their last year of their contract. They've got no idea what they want to do life after footy, for example. So all of these non-sport or non-work examples are having a big impact on their work as well. So certainly, as I said, with my role where I am now, it's you can certainly see. I've been there 10 months now. I know a fair chunk of the body language of a lot of the staff there. When things aren't going well and when there's issues at home as well, which obviously can reflect in their work. So supporting the person when you're having the conversation. Again, a number of I can send this out to anyone too if you need any. You want to have a copy of this, but plenty of questions there. You want open-ended questions where you're sort of forcing them to answer and to open up a little bit. And once you've got that relationship with them, it's a lot easier. But this is sort of that first conversation. But a really good one I use is, how can I help you improve this situation? So there's that hope there for them that, hey, I've got someone else to help here and sort of unload my worries on. And then that is my role, or that is our role as buddies and advocates, to help them with it. So you may not have the answers, but we can certainly support you there. I'm here for you. A lot of them feel you're very, very lonely. They think they're caught up in their own head. They're caught up in their own emotions. Part of the reason I got out of sport was I was burnt out. I was anxious. My wife actually rang my business partner, because I was a stubborn bloke coming out of 20 odd years of sport, and she spoke to my business partner. She said, he doesn't listen to too many people, so he'll listen to you. Get him out of sport, he's done. So I've sort of been through all this and I understand it myself. But knowing you've got someone there is really important as well. And reinforcing that trust is going to be there. This conversation's between you and I, and giving them an answer. The support is available, and here's the support here. And again, supporting you on that wellbeing journey is really important. I'll talk a little bit about Readiness now. We can take some questions at the end if you want as well. But we're a holistic wellbeing platform. We've got a number of Caravan-related companies on, including CIV on Readiness. We've got weekly check-ins that you can do. We've got 600 resources across all things wellbeing. We've got the EAP support there as well. It's an app on your phone. It's on your desktop. There's a messaging system in there as well for buddies. So I know I'm going over this pretty quickly, but some people like and need that human connection on their wellbeing journey. Some people have got really good support outside of work, but they just want to monitor how well they're going with their wellbeing, both at work and away, and they just want to self-assess. Totally fine. We really cater for all of those, and I said the timing's been quite good for a business point in terms of the legislation that's coming out. It's up until about this year, or May last year, it was a nice to have in businesses. Now it's a must have. So the take home of all the psychosocial hazard legislation is you need to be proactive in the mental health space, not reactive. We've got both measures in there. We've got plenty of resources for buddies and how to have the conversation and simple ways around that as well. As I said, there's part of the research that we did with Readiness back in lockdowns. It was 2020, 2021 with Swinburne University. We worked out what are the major factors that make up our well-being as human beings, regardless of what we do. And we wanted to know what are the top factors at work and away from work. Once we identified those, ironically, there's 14 main ones, but there's 40 all up. We've got weightings assigned to each of those factors, so we know exactly what bearing does sleep have on your overall well-being, for example. And we can assess those, get check-ins on those, got all the interventions and resources for those, plus all the expert help on those, all in the app. Really, really simple. Can't stress this enough in crisis support. These are the go-tos in terms of crisis support. EAP isn't normally for crisis support, so it's that's for more of the ongoing support. But as I said, these are the go-tos in terms of that sort of really, really critical stuff. In terms of mental health first aid, we do that through Readiness as well. We've got short courses in that for your staff and your leaders. Not every business has the 2-day time or the budget to do mental health first aid courses. Totally fine. We've got when we onboard our clients, we've got a 1-hour workshop that looks at all of this, goes through similar stuff to what I've been through today for all of your staff as well, just to get that advocate and that buddies, that everyone can be buddies in the workplace. And it beats down on the mental health stigma as well, which is still getting better, but it's still alive and well. So in terms of Readiness, we help you develop a compliant workplace, which is very relevant now. Readiness is a scientifically backed platform that monitors the psychosocial hazards, risks in the workplace. Plus, we look at everything else. We've had to shift our marketing a little bit to really hone in on their hazards, because they're here in half the country and they're coming in the rest of the country, as I've mentioned. But we're very holistic in our well-being and what we support you with. We've got all the consultation and counselling services as well. So we've got our EAP. If your business has already got an EAP, totally fine. We take ours out, put yours in. But it's a really simple and easy platform that your staff can use when they want. It's proactive in its nature of reminding us to check in with ourselves weekly. And as business owners and directors and managers, we've got organisation dashboards in there that show all the de-identified data from all of your staff, so you know exactly how your staff are going across all of the psychosocial hazards, but how they're sleeping, how they're hydrating, how the job demands are, what's their perceived life satisfaction, all their mind, their mood, exercise, the whole thing. So it's very holistic. I've basically taken the strategies out of sport and how we proactively assess our players, which is first class, and brought that out to the real world. So it's as some of our clients say, we're about 10 years ahead, but that's not a bad place to be. So thank you so much for your time. Feel free to, there's my phone number there, my email, there's our website. You can scan that as well, which will get it through the website. If you'd like a copy of that presentation as well, just shoot me an email or give me a call and I'll flick it through. If you would like to come and chat too regarding getting Readiness into your business, we'd love to chat with you as well. But thanks for your time, and any questions at all? Paulie.
Yeah, so Simon, I want to just go back to one of your first slides there, and just one thing that's going to make us all stand up and take notice is prison time.
Yes.
So what's the threshold? Like, have they got a threshold for culpability for employers? Like, is that part of it?
They don't know yet.
Like consumer law, where it's like reasonable this and reasonable that.
Yep. And they're going to be pretty easy early on. They certainly have been up in Queensland. As long as you're shown to be proactive in these areas and doing the right thing, you'll be fine. So part of our activation, when we onboard any staff members, we send them an activation email, and they need to activate through there, because you'll have some staff who, for every 100 staff, you'll have a third will be right into their well-being. You'll have a third will be sort of 50-50, a little bit reactive. You'll have a third that just don't care. You can't lead the horse to water. But as a business, for those third who don't care, well, the proof's in the pudding that emails have been sent in onboarding. When we onboard, we do all the demonstrations and everything. So staff are very, very well aware that there is a wellbeing program in practice. And we've had real life examples of that with WorkSafe as well, in that space of you've done everything possible to get that in. Probably a third of our clients now, and we've got a really diverse list of clients, blue collar, white collar. We're probably more blue collar than anything. We've had, as I said, they get their email activations, and we've set up buddy systems within there, departments within there, so we can really shape up the platform for the organisation as well. It's a survey engine, so we can ask any questions, anything you want to get some feedback on within your organisation, we can do. And where I was going before, I just lost a train of thought. As I said, a number of our clients now are putting readiness into the employee contracts as the business is offering for wellbeing, so it's in their contract. So those little 1%ers go a long way in terms of compliance point of view with that. But certainly out of WorkSafe is that they're checking for these now. My brother, for example, has got a pub in Ballarat. They're on Readiness. He were looking at he had no slip mats in the stairs down to where the barrels of beer are underneath, so we had to pick those up, but he put those in. But they said, so okay, now we've checked the physical side of things, obviously in Victoria, what are you doing from a mental health point of view? And Tim showed them Readiness straight away and went through all that. Go, okay, God, you're way ahead of the curve. We had the bit of the aha moment for us as a business was just before Christmas. We had a business in Ipswich up in Queensland on Readiness. WorkSafe Queensland came through, did their usual physical checks, but then because they're alive and well with the hazards, they went right through the psychosocial hazard legislation and did the check. They got 95% on their psychosocial hazard legislation. They didn't get 100 because the owner forgot to show a number of the resources that were in there. He ended up getting them back because he wanted the 100%. But he rang me that night and he said, hey, we got 95% on our WorkSafe check for psychosocial hazards. We've had about 20 clients now get the full-blown hazard check, all with 90+% scores. So much so we've had WorkSafe Queensland and WorkSafe contact us wanting to know, we haven't seen anything like this before, we want to learn a bit more about you. So we sort of partnered up and came up with the psychosocial hazard prevention check-in for all individuals and businesses, and you don't really get too many good calls from WorkSafe, but that was one, yeah. So we know we're on the right track, which is great. Yeah.
So it's sort of a slightly left field addition to that question. It sort of strikes me that probably the most hazardous industries from a suicide and mental health point of view are government.
Yeah.
So, police, ambulance, military, teachers, who's going to jail?
That's it. It's directors.
Are they just making us responsible, but who's taking responsibility?
Yeah, exactly. And they're
Really high risk.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not talking out of turn here, but a couple of those industries we've approached don't want to know us because what they don't know they can't fix, i.e. data. So if they can be seen that, hey, there are issues here that you've done nothing about, they don't want to know anything about it, which is, I've had a number of mates in the police force quit in the last 2 years with PTSD. And it's they're the ones who need it the most, who are very reactive. So gone are the days now of just pinning up a Beyond Blue phone number in the staff room and a bowl of fruit. That's gone. You can't do that anymore.
Sounds like they're not.
Exactly. Yeah. And they're the hardest. What I've found, certainly, as I said, we've got a really diverse list of clients. I've found a lot of the blue collar clients are a bit like footy clubs. It's been gold. It's just in terms of introduction to onboarding, readiness into the organisation is sometimes takes an hour in terms of they go, yep, we want this and we want on next week, totally fine. They seem to be, certainly seen in manufacturing, they've been fantastic in terms of being able to get them on and being so receptive. Wellbeing starts at the top, like most things. If you've got leaders in the organisation who are really into this and may not be themselves, but they understand and respect that mental health or wellbeing plays a huge role in performance, they'll get more out of their staff. And we see that in sport all the time. Thanks, guys, for that. As I said, grab any details, shoot me a message if you want any further information, and we'll be glad to look after you. Thanks for your time. Thanks, guys.
Yes, sir.